Welcome to Earnside, where smart design meets real earnings. If your AI-generated icons keep getting rejected, this video will show you exactly why. I'm not just talking theory, I've tested every tool, traced every path, and rebuilt every shape manually. In this full breakdown, you'll see real mistakes, real fixes, and the exact workflow I use to get my icons accepted on top stock platforms. No fluff, no shortcuts, just clean, compliant design backed by 5 years of hands-on experience. So if you're serious about turning your creativity into income, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. I've opened the same file we worked on in part 2, the one where we traced the icons. But today, we're rebuilding them manually. It's actually very simple, so let's get started. First, I selected all 6 icons on the artboard. Then I went to the Object menu, scrolled down to Lock, and clicked on Selection. Now all the icons are locked, and that's important, because we'll be drawing directly on top of them. This way, the original shapes won't get selected or disturbed while we work. Next, I zoomed into the first icon. I clicked on Swap Fill and Stroke to convert the fill into a stroke. Then I double-clicked the stroke color, changed it to red, and hit OK. This will help us clearly see the paths we're drawing as we rebuild the icon step. Now I'm using the rectangle tool, but instead of clicking, I'm holding down the left mouse button to reveal more options. From there, I select the ellipse tool. I'm drawing a circle directly over the heart icon, holding down Alt while dragging from the right side. This keeps it centered and symmetrical. Next, I increase the stroke slightly so the shape is easier to see. Then I adjust the circle to match the heart's proportions as closely as possible. Looks good. Now I switch to the pen tool, hold to reveal more options, and select the anchor point tool. I click once on the bottom anchor of the circle, and that instantly creates a sharp corner. Now I grab the direct selection tool and move that corner point down to match the heart's lower edge. Then I select the right anchor of the circle and pull its handles downward to shape the curve. I nudge the anchor itself slightly lower to match the heart's contour. Finally, I adjust the top handle upward to refine the curve, and it's starting to look perfect. To finish, I select the top anchor and tap the up arrow key a few times to lift it slightly. And just look at that, the right side of the heart is now clean, smooth, and fully custom built. Using the selection tool, I hold down Alt to make a copy of the shape and Shift to keep the movement perfectly straight. Then I right-click, go to Transform, and choose Reflect. The Reflect window opens. I select Vertical and click OK. Now the opposite side is ready. I select both shapes, hold Shift again, and move them slightly to the side so I can align the anchor points properly. Zooming into the lower corners, I carefully adjust the anchors to make sure both sides connect smoothly. Watch closely. I'm holding Shift while dragging to keep everything aligned horizontally. Now both shapes are aligned, but the icon isn't a single shape yet. So I select both and head over to the Pathfinder panel. Clicking Unite merges them into one complete shape. The base of the heart icon is now ready. I zoom into the lower section and use the direct selection tool to inspect the anchor points. Everything looks perfect, the joint is clean and solid. Next, I grab the selection tool, hold Shift, and move the shape back over the original locked icon. But the corners still look sharp, so I go to the stroke panel and click on Round Cap and Round Join. Now the corners are smooth and rounded. To add the center line, I select the pen tool and draw a straight horizontal line across the middle of the heart. Using the selection tool, I place it precisely, adjusting with the up and down arrow keys. Then I increase the stroke, clicking inside the stroke field and using the mouse wheel to adjust. You can also use the arrow keys here. With the line still selected, I switch back to the pen tool and start adding anchor points. Just simple clicks along the line 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9 anchor points. Now we're ready to shape this line into something custom. Now I'm using the direct selection tool to adjust the anchor points on the ECG line. I move one point up, another down, and you can already see a heartbeat graph forming right through the center of the heart. I'll fine-tune a few more points to match the shape exactly. Next, I grab the selection tool and select the heart shape. I convert the stroke into a fill, this makes it easier to merge later. Then I select the ECG line, go to the Object menu, and click Expand. Fill and stroke are already selected, so I hit OK. Now the line is converted into a shape. I select both the heart and the ECG line, switch to the Shape Builder tool, and hold Alt while clicking on the center area, this removes the overlapping part. Then I use the selection tool to delete any extra shapes left behind. I select both remaining shapes and move them slightly to the side. Now I group them together, and we're ready to inspect the details. Using the Direct Selection tool, I click through each anchor point to check for mistakes. The manually built icon is clean, every point is intentional and precise. Now let's compare it to the AI-generated version. I go to the Object menu and unlock the icon we traced earlier. Zooming in, you'll notice something important: the top center of the heart has 2 anchor points instead of 1. That's a sign of poor geometry. It's not a true vector shape, and that's exactly why it gets rejected. Manual design gives you control. AI shortcuts often leave behind hidden flaws, and now you can see the difference for yourself. Now take a close look at this ECG line, the AI-generated version. Where there should be clean corners, it's placing curves. Where sharp transitions are needed, the handles and anchors are all wrong. Every segment has inconsistencies, and that's exactly why these icons get rejected. This is why I showed you the manual method step by step, so you can see the difference for yourself. When you build icons manually, you control every point, every curve, every angle. AI tools can be helpful, but they often leave behind hidden mistakes that aren't visible until you zoom in. And when you're submitting to stock platforms, those mistakes matter. So now you've seen both sides, and you know exactly how to avoid rejection and build icons that actually get accepted. Next, I grabbed the selection tool and clicked on the red heart icon to select it. Then I double-clicked on the fill color that opened up the color picker menu. From there, I switched the color to solid black and hit OK. Simple step, but it's important. This is how you control visual contrast and make sure your icons stay clean and compliant. Now I move over to the second icon. I select it using the selection tool, then head up to the Object menu. From there, I choose Lock and click on Selection. This locks the icon in place so we can build directly on top of it without accidentally moving or selecting it. It's a simple step, but it keeps your workflow clean and controlled. I start by selecting the Rectangle tool. Then I draw a rectangle directly over the icon area. To round the corners, I grab the circular handle and drag inward, adjusting the radius for a smooth curve. I set the fill color to red. Then zoom in to match the roundness exactly with the AI-generated reference. Once it looks perfect, I move this shape off to the side. Now underneath, I draw another rectangle. Same process, I round the corners manually, zoom in, and fine-tune the radius until it's visually aligned with the reference. I start by selecting both shapes using the selection tool. Then I click once on the outer shape, this sets it as the key object for alignment. From the Align panel, I click on Horizontal Align Center. Now both shapes are perfectly centered. With both still selected, I switch to the Shape Builder tool. Holding down Alt, I click on the inner shape to remove it, clean and simple. This leaves us with a precise cutout, ready for the next step in the design. I start by selecting the Rectangle tool and drawing a new shape. Then I round the corners using the corner handles, keeping the style consistent with the rest of the icon. After that, I align the rectangle to the center so it lines up perfectly with the layout. Next, I grab the Ellipse tool and draw a circle. Using the Align panel, I center both shapes horizontally and vertically to make sure everything lines up perfectly. Now I select all the shapes together. With the Shape Builder tool active, I hold down Alt and click on the overlapping areas. This removes the extra parts from the main shape. Clean, precise, and fully under control, that's how you build icons that actually get accepted. I change the fill color to black, then switch to the Direct Selection tool to inspect the anchor points. First, I unlock the previously locked icon so we can compare both versions side by side. Now look closely, there's a clear difference. On the AI-generated shape, the handles reveal uneven curves. It's not truly straight, and the transitions are inconsistent. But when you look at the manually built shape, the anchor points are clean, the curves are smooth, and the geometry is precise. Especially on the hand area, the roundness is perfect, exactly how it should be. This is the kind of detail that makes your icon stand out, and it's the reason manual refinement matters. AI-generated paths often look okay from a distance, but once you zoom in, the mistakes become obvious. And that's what leads to rejection on stock platforms. I move to the next icon and select it. Then I go to the Object menu and lock the selection so it stays in place while I work on top. Holding down Shift, I draw a rectangle to keep the proportions straight. Next, I switch to the Pen tool and draw a vertical line starting from the center of the rectangle, going downward again holding Shift to keep it perfectly straight. I convert the fill to stroke, then change the stroke color to red. Using the mouse wheel, I increase the stroke weight for better visibility. Then I click on the stroke settings and apply round cap and round join to smooth out the ends and corners. Now I select the line and go to Object Expand. Fill and stroke are already selected, so I hit OK, the line is now a shape. With the shape selected, I go back to Object Path Offset Path. The Offset Path window opens, I use the mouse wheel to slightly increase the offset, then click OK. This gives us a clean, expanded version of the line ready for merging or further editing. I select both shapes together. Then I switch to the Shape Builder tool. Holding down Alt, I click on the overlapping areas to subtract and clean them up. I switch to the Rectangle tool and draw a simple rectangle right here. Then I select all the shapes together. Using the Shape Builder tool, I hold down Alt and click on the unwanted parts, removing them cleanly. This gives us a neat, trimmed design ready for the next step. I select both shapes and rotate them 45 degrees while holding Shift to keep the angle precise. Then I select both shapes again and switch to the Scale tool. I grab the top anchor and drag downward to resize proportionally. Next, I switch to the Selection tool and place the design over the AI-generated icon. Using the Scale tool again, I fine-tune the size for a perfect fit. Then I change the color to red to match the theme. Finally, I use the Selection tool to make a few more small adjustments for alignment and balance. I switched to the Direct Selection tool and selected both corner points. Then I rounded them to smooth out the edges. After that, I selected the next two corners and rounded those as well, keeping the shape consistent. Next, I grabbed the Rectangle tool and drew a simple rectangle right in the center of this area. Using the Selection tool, I adjusted its position to fit perfectly. Then I switched back to the Direct Selection tool and nudged it slightly upward, just to align it better with the overall design. I rounded the shape first, then used the Anchor Point tool to curve the top edge, giving it a smooth upward arc. Next, I held Alt while dragging with the Selection tool to create a copy. Then I right-clicked, went to Transform, selected Reflect, chose Vertical, and clicked OK. After that, I selected both shapes and clicked Unite in the Pathfinder panel. It didn't work the first time, so I zoomed in, manually aligned the anchor points to make sure they were perfectly joined. Then I selected both shapes again and clicked Unite, this time it worked. Finally, I selected the combined shape and used the Align panel on the right to center it properly. I selected the shape and went to Object Path Offset Path. The Offset Path window opened. I used the mouse wheel to increase the offset slightly, then clicked OK. Now I have two shapes, the original and the offset version. I select both together and switch to the Shape Builder tool. Holding down Alt, I click on the overlapping section to remove it. Then I switch to the Selection tool and delete the leftover shape. Clean and simple, the design is now trimmed and ready for the next step. First, I picked the pen tool and started drawing the custom shape. Then I switched to the Ellipse tool and drew a rectangle just to help with alignment. I selected both shapes and used the Align panel to center them perfectly. Now, I go back to the pen tool and continue building the design from here. This method keeps everything clean and symmetrical, especially when working with icons or structured layouts. The shape is complete, now let's fine-tune it. I used the Direct Selection tool to make a few small adjustments. Then I round the corners to smooth out the edges. With the Selection tool, I move it closer to the main layout. I slightly adjust the size and nudge it upward for better alignment. Now I select all the icon shapes together and change the fill color to black. I move the entire icon slightly to the side, and just look at that, clean, sharp, and perfectly balanced. This icon turned out great, didn't it? I selected all the shapes and clicked Unite in the Pathfinder panel. I used the Direct Selection tool to select both curved points, then I tapped the up arrow key to nudge them slightly upward. Just a small tweak, but it helps refine the shape before merging. Now we can make a few more adjustments. Watch closely, I'll show you exactly how I do it. I selected all the shapes and grouped them. The icon is now complete. Then I moved to the next icon, selected it, and locked it using Ctrl+2. I picked the rectangle tool and drew a new shape. I changed its color to red. Rounded the corners to match the style. Then I selected the rectangle and moved it off to the side, ready for the next step. Then I took the rectangle tool and converted the fill to stroke. I drew the rectangle on this part of the icon and increased the stroke weight. Using the pen tool, I drew a line here while holding Shift to keep it straight. I copied that line, right-clicked, went to Transform, and clicked Reflect. Since vertical was already selected, I just hit OK, and the line was reflected. Using the Selection tool, I placed it in position. Next, I used the pen tool to draw a line here. Then another one at this spot. And finally one last line at the bottom. I added a rectangle here and converted its stroke to fill. Then I used the selection tool to copy it by holding Alt and Shift together, placed it on the opposite side, and aligned it perfectly. Finally, I selected everything, went to stroke settings, and clicked on round cap and round join. Now the entire icon has a smooth, rounded finish. I drew a rectangle here. Then I added a circle, holding Shift and Alt to keep it perfectly centered and proportional. Next, I drew another rectangle here, and one more on this side. Using the direct selection tool, I selected these two anchor points. Then I switched to the scale tool and adjusted them like this, shaping the design exactly how I want it. I selected both shapes and aligned them to the center. Then I went to the Pathfinder panel and clicked Unite. Now the icon shape is merged. Next, I selected both again, held Shift, and aligned them to the center once more. I selected the merged shape, expanded it, and clicked Unite again to finalize the path. Then I ungrouped it. Now each part is editable and ready for the next step. I selected this shape and aligned it just like before. Then I selected the rectangle and the circle, and aligned them to the center. After that, I selected everything and converted it into a symbol. Using the selection tool, I deleted the symbol from the artboard. Next, I selected both rectangles and grouped them using Ctrl+G. I aligned the group the same way as before. Finally, I used the Shape Builder tool, held down Alt, and removed the unwanted parts. I selected all the icon shapes and grouped them. Then I changed the color to black. Now I switch to the direct selection tool and click on a single anchor point, just to show how it reacts automatically. No need to go deep here, just a quick check before moving on. I moved to the next icon and drew a rectangle. Then I changed its color to red. To avoid interference, I locked the black icon behind it using the Object menu. Next, I used the Direct Selection tool to round the corners of the red rectangle. I copied it by holding Alt and Shift while dragging. Then I removed the roundness from the copy, just to keep the shape flat. After that, I selected the two bottom anchor points with the Direct Selection tool and rounded them slightly. This gives the shape a clean, balanced look ready for the next step. I selected both shapes. Using the Pen tool, I added one anchor point at the top and another at the bottom of the upper shape. Then I switched to the Direct Selection tool and dragged both anchor points downward to reshape the curve. Next, I drew a rectangle here. I selected the top two anchor points with the Direct Selection tool and converted the fill to stroke. Then I increased the stroke weight for better visibility. After that, I rounded the top points to smooth out the corners. Finally, I selected the bottom line with the Direct Selection tool and deleted it, cleaning up the shape. I selected all the elements and moved them downward. Then I zoomed in and drew a new rectangle here. I converted the stroke to fill. Next, I drew another rectangle and converted the fill to stroke. I increased the stroke weight for better visibility. Then I clicked on the stroke settings and enabled both round cap and round join for smoother edges. Using the selection tool, I held down Alt to duplicate the shape, and Shift to align it precisely to the right side. I selected both objects and grouped them. Then I selected both again, set the lower one as the key object, and aligned them. After that, I grouped them once more. Using the selection tool, I moved the group downward and expanded it. I zoomed in and drew a rectangle. From that, I made a copy. I selected the copy and activated the Shape Builder tool. Then I removed the overlapping area. Next, I selected the remaining shape and clicked Unite to merge it. Finally, I selected the unified shape and expanded it. I moved to the last icon and selected it. Then I rotated it 45 degrees. Next, I drew a rectangle here and adjusted its position. Using the selection tool, I moved it downward. Then I drew another rectangle, shifted it down, and resized it. I made a copy of that shape. After that, I placed another rectangle in this area and extended its size downward. I selected the shape and used the Shape Builder tool to remove the overlapping section. Finally, I used the selection tool to delete the extra shapes, keeping the design clean and precise. I selected the shape and switched to the Direct Selection tool. Then I grabbed these two anchor points and rounded them. Next, I moved to this shape and selected the Pen tool. While holding Ctrl, I temporarily activated the selection tool to make a quick adjustment. After releasing Ctrl, I was still in Pen tool mode, so I added an anchor point at the center. That created the tip section of the pencil. You can see how it formed right here. I nudged the shape slightly downward. Then I drew a rectangle here and moved it down. I picked the pen tool again and started drawing in this area. You can see how I'm shaping it. I moved the shape to the side and converted the fill to stroke. Then I increased the stroke weight. Using the pen tool, I drew one line here and another one over here. I selected both lines and used the Shape Builder tool to remove the extra segments. Then I selected this leftover line and deleted it. Finally, I moved the remaining line into position. I held Alt and Shift to make a straight copy of this line. Then I used Ctrl+D to duplicate it, 6 copies in total. I selected 5 of them and moved them downward. There was one extra line from the copy, I deleted that. Then I selected the remaining shapes and expanded them. After that, I clicked Unite to merge everything. I moved the final shape to the right, and then placed it below the icon I created earlier. Next, I selected both elements and set the main shape as the key object. Then I aligned them vertically to the center. I selected the merged shape and used the Shape Builder tool to remove the overlapping area. The icon is now complete. I grouped it and rotated it 45 degrees. Placed both versions side by side, and now, using the Direct Selection tool, you can clearly see the difference. Look closely, the AI-generated version has visible mistakes. But the handmade version? Clean, precise, and perfectly balanced. All icons are now complete. I unlocked everything and moved the AI-generated icons off to the side. Then I selected the three bottom icons and aligned them vertically to the center. I did the same for the top three icons. Next, I drew a rectangle here, held Alt to copy it, and used Ctrl+D to duplicate it. Now I have a row of rectangles for alignment. I selected the first rectangle, one top icon, and one bottom icon, set the rectangle as the key object and aligned them horizontally to the center. The briefcase icon didn't align properly, that's because it wasn't grouped. So I grouped it first. And now it's aligned correctly. Then I selected the second top icon, the rectangle, and the second bottom icon, and aligned them. Same for the last set, top icon, rectangle, and bottom icon, aligned them as well. I selected all three top icons and aligned them vertically. Did the same for the three bottom icons. Then I deleted the rectangles, they were only used for alignment. I selected the AI-generated icons and deleted them. Moved the bottom icons slightly upward. Selected everything and increased the size a bit. Then I used the Artboard tool, held Alt, and expanded the artboard. You can see exactly how I do it. Used the Selection tool again and scaled all icons slightly larger. Selected the top three icons and nudged them downward. Finally, I selected everything and grouped it. Aligned it horizontally and centered it. Changed the fill color to black. Went to Object Expand to finalize the shapes. And that's it, you can see how easily it came together. It took time because I explained everything in detail, so you could learn the full process step by step. If you noticed any issue in this video, even a small one, just drop a comment below. I'll make a follow-up video as soon as possible to fix it and guide you through. And if this tutorial helped you out, don't forget to hit like, share it with your design friends, and subscribe. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, and with your support, we'll get there fast. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.